Here,
What's that?
it's a get out of jail free card.
Welcome to the Collingwood Rant. I am Sly.
And it's only an island if you look at it from the water, Spook.
It's only a win if you look at it from the Melbourne Football Club.
Do you know what a win is?
It's a really hard game to cover because it's just, I don't know, were we good, were we bad, they were spirited,
It was 3/4 of shit, and then we played for about 20 minutes.
Yeah. What did you want out of that game? I wanted some dominance like we exhibited against Adelaide, but scoring a little bit better.
The funny thing is, what do I want? You want me to answer?
Yeah.
Well, in the cold hard light of day, now that we know what the results are, it doesn't really matter what I wanted. At the time, I think it was best suited that we belted them. It gave us a better chance based on results not going our way to retain top four. As it turns out, results beautifully went our way the whole weekend. So here we are in top four, and we only needed 6 points to do it.
Actually, our percentage went down, which is funny.
It's a Collingwood way.
Just going to that game, they dropped Will Parker and Ed Allen after he failed to impress in 4 minutes. Come on, Ed, what are you doing? You had 4 minutes.
Mate, seriously. Have a
fucking
good
fucking game.
Have a good long hard look at yourself. Take 6 minutes.
Do better, Ed, really.
What the hell's that?
So many responses. Yeah. And then they brought in Rowan Steele.
It's not the first time we put something black near your mouth.
They brought back Rowan Steele, and I can't remember the other player was. But it was, you're sort of disappointed about the treatment of Ed Allen. You think it could have been a game where maybe they rested Ned Long and they brought Ed Allen in and said, you play the Ned Long role?
This week? Or you
Melbourne
mean last week? Yeah, look, I thought he might have come in because we really didn't have any inside options if something did happen to Longy. And, look, I suppose he's had faith in him now for quite a while. He played better this week at least, but it was surprising that we didn't have a plan B.
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed that he just doesn't deviate from what he knows.
No, he wants particular players out there.
And he obviously rates Ned Long. And, again, I've advocated for Ned Long for the last 2 years. So I'm not a Ned Long hater. But just in the context of where the season is, I really would have thought that, Ned had hit the wall about a month ago. And it would have been a good time to maybe give him a couple of weeks, 1 week off and a week in the VFL and all that sort of stuff, and give Ed Allen that responsibility. Obviously, I don't want to say they've lost faith in Ed Allen, but in terms of the season where they were playing him for a lot of the year, now he's sort of in and out of the reserves again. It's almost like they said, you're not quite where we want you to be right now, so we're going to default you back to the VFL.
Did he play VFL today, Ed Allen?
I have no idea.
No,
I'd have to watch the VFL to know that. So I'm a little bit disappointed he didn't try a few things. Jeremy Howe, what a shock, he got injured.
So innocuous as well. It was, we were talking about it before. He was just running along the wing and went pop.
Yeah, he actually reminds me of Daniel Wells in that 1 year at Collingwood where it was like, okay, we love what you do when you're out there, but when you're doing injuries, just doing things like running or diving for the ball, it's probably not a good sign. And with the older players, they can fall into these places where, injuries just become recurring. The body's just, I can't do it anymore.
The hard thing is, I think he hasn't played since, it was the end of June, towards last week of June. He went out with a groin issue then. He came back, got the concussion, and then come back from that and then got the groin again. It's not an ideal preparation.
Played about 90 seconds against Hawthorn, and he's played about 11 minutes, if that.
It was second quarter he went out, wasn't it?
Was that enough, or it went for the first?
No.
That whole game sort of just blurred.
Yeah, it's not worth remembering.
I'm just going to jump ahead. Would you bring him back? They're saying he's likely to be ready for the prelim. Would you bring him back knowing his body has repeatedly let him down? He's only going to get through 2 games. If we win and we get into a prelim, and then we win that and go into a grand final.
The simple answer is no, because he's going to be chronically underdone if he comes back for a prelim. The outlier though is that who the fuck else is going to come in? Someone's going to come in and look, hopefully play one game before the prelim. But I don't think, unless they can get some training into him, but what's he going to do? Just sit on that bike that you pedal with your hands? He's not going to be able to run or do any lateral movements or anything that with the groin. Was it ductor strain or was
yeah.
So he's going to be restricted in what he does. I mean, he'd probably do a lot of bike riding and stuff like that, but he's not going to be doing any physical hard training or anything over the next couple of weeks. So it's a tough one. I mean, you look logically, you wouldn't. But realistically, they're probably going to have to. Unless whoever comes in solidifies that defence and has a blinder, then it's going to be a hard one to argue against.
Yeah, I mean, there's no one who can come in and replace him. They can shuffle players around. They can bring Will Parker back and then say, Maynard, you're going to have to take the Howe role. And Houston, you're just going to have to play. But it's that thing like you go back to 11 when Malthouse went with the injured Reed, and that really cost us the grand final.
That killed us.
And the big problem with Howe in the 2 games he has played now, he had no control over what happened against Hawthorn because it was a collision. But you saw this game, he gets injured, and then you're bringing on Ryan Steele to replace a defender. And it's like, oh, okay, now this totally throws the balance of your side out. And obviously you can't cater for everything. But in a big final, I'd be really concerned that you're going to back Howe, he gets injured, and then you bring in Ned Long or, some midfielder. And it's how does that work? You go back to the 2023 grand final because they lost Murphy to concussion. And they said they went through conversations. Do we move Frampton back or do we keep him at full forward and stay with what we've had and all that sort of thing? So, obviously these things happen in games and you can get away with patchwork fixes and all that. But the big concern is you don't really want to be facing that equation that early if you can help it. And, I think playing Howe is problematic, and they might just have to make the hard decision. I almost hope that Howe does what Presti did and just say, I don't think we can trust my body.
Which there's every chance. At 35, his abductor's not going to rapidly heal. It's been problematic twice now. I think he'll know himself that it's just too risky. I don't think he'll make the decision on behalf of.
I hope he does. He seems like a really
of the team,
person.
But we'll know more in a few weeks' time. I think we'll give him every opportunity to come good, obviously. Totally. But they're
going to have to run him into the ground in terms of fitness tests and that, just see it's going to hold up. We're going to do this a little bit differently. I mean, no one really cares about the Melbourne game. We did what we needed to do ultimately, so now we're going forward into the finals in 4th spot. Because results have fallen our way, which is amazing.
No, and I'll just point out a stat that our mate Gary brought up. So 1450 last quarter, we're 15 points down. Gold Coast is 16 points up, and we were sitting 6th on the ladder. And an hour later, we're 4th.
Yeah,
it was just a funny old result. It just went our way beautifully. And I think, look, we lifted when we needed to lift. I think, that last 20 minutes or so was probably enjoyable to watch. Not probably enjoyable, was enjoyable. I'd probably consign myself at the 15-point mark that I thought, oh, that's it. Melbourne just looked like they were going to run over us. And
I heard you were in water and you swam and hid behind a big rock.
What's the reference?
Jaws. Hooper. You idiot. Can't believe you didn't get that.
No.
You probably want Star Wars references.
They
fly now?
I thought, well, that's it. It's, we're bottom of the 8. We'll make the run and from there and see what happens. But
okay.
Happy with this.
Good jump around. So going back to the last week's episode, Mitchell McCae just watched this episode after the Adelaide loss, and I'm really disappointed you were both making way too much sense for Collingwood supporters. Take that, our critics. Mark Ferguson, great rant as usual. Have we overrated McCrae? He was gifted a once-in-a-lifetime player in 2022. Obviously, he's talking about Patrick Lipinski. We limped into the finals in 2023 and lucked out to some degree. But his drafting, selections and player positioning have been all over the place this year. Totally agree. It is a little bit concerning.
I mean, there's only so much you're going to get out of this. So he's going to have to change. And there's only so many more seasoned players we can bring in. So I think the hand's forced next year, regardless, that we're going to start cultivating youth. And I think the older boys, they'd be clearly instructed now that you signed on for another year, but you're not going to be guaranteed 25 games because we'll win the flag again next year. That you're going to get what you get, and you'll be moved to the side to bring someone else through.
I'm not saying this out of any bias or anything, but I would have hoped in the 2023 season, because we had so many older players, and we talked about staggering their exodus, that then they would have just said to someone like Will Hoskin-Elliott, that's it. Okay, we need to rejuvenate this list. We can't afford all of yous to be going out at once, so we're just going to have to force a couple of players. So he would have been one of them.
Do you reckon he pulled the pin, or was he told?
I reckon he was probably told, look, you're going to be a role player next year, so you'll play when the alternatives aren't there.
It'll be a Markov type role.
Yeah.
But he was still 32. I think he would have happily hung around, unless he's got some interest outside of football.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's...
I think the invisibility cloak business is about to take off.
Well, if you look at like...
stealth fighting, he's going to be doing a bit of that.
If you've played...
spying on other countries.
If you've played AFL, would you really be happy just going, okay, I want my career to peter out by waking up and going to play in suburban grounds, VFL games? Like, you know, what's happened to Mason Cox this year, I would just be saying, well, look, sorry, I don't want to be a role player. That's no offence to you. If this is where my career's at, then I might as well pull the pin. You know, Mick Malthouse used to say, it's better to retire for a bit in the tank than rather end your career splutting around in the VFL. So I would have hoped in 2023 that we sort of exited a couple of players. I've said before, I would have kept Ginnivan. I don't know what happened. What, you know, we know like the guy attending the races before the grand final and the dickish stuff he's done. But as I said, you know, you put 50 games into this kid and you just go, here's someone else, you take him. And if he reaps, you know, if he actually matures, good on you. If you look at like the last couple of years, he would have played consistently in our sides. Evan Purdue, one of the things that really bothered me in Fly's post-match presser was when he said, quote, we're heading in the right direction, end quote, in terms of how I want to play. It's round 23.
That Marsha Hines.
It's round 23. That should be settled. Totally right. Very alarming to hear that. Secondly, as a point of conversation about the ruck position, I don't think the ruckman being a great tap ruck really matters. If it was as vital as some make out, then the All-Australian ruckman's team would win the premiership every year. Max Gawn, as good as he is, only has one flag, but 6-7 All-Australians. And one more conversation starter. If you guys could draft any player in the AFL to come to the Pies, who would it be? I mean, the thing I think with the tap the advantage is Melbourne's just a basket case around Gawn, so it's really hard for him to totally impact.
What was the ruck numbers? You got them?
Yeah, I've got them.
Just out of curiosity.
Music.
Or should I do heading in the right direction for your love and affection? Because it's going to be a brand new start. All the way to Kmart.
Let me just find... I hit outs. So 47-21 in their favour. Centre clearance is 16-7, so they smashed us. Stoppage clearance is 23-22, so it's about even. And they broke even. They had total clearances 39-29.
Did Gawn have a match-saving tackle at the end of the game though?
No, he didn't.
So therefore, Cameron's the better ruckman.
I think
applying by Collingwood logic.
I think like Melbourne's just a shit club, and they've been a shit club for pretty much
ever,
a great club
forever.
Yeah, I think you got to sort of
even Barassi said they were shit.
I think you got to look at the whole side, and I don't think you got to spend millions in the ruck like we did with Grundy, but I think you do need to have an effective ruckman. I mean, especially with our midfield, because our midfield always has to compensate, and that's the thing that really frustrates me.
I mean, clearly we're going to go into the final series without Cox, so it's a lot to ask of Cameron.
Yeah.
Who are we rucking against in Adelaide?
Riley O'Brien.
Who?
Riley Bryan, whatever his name is.
Is he? Oh,
Timothy O'Kane, cheer, love you two. Hope you're well, love your work.
Hey, we don't do any of that stuff.
Funny, great entertainment, nice one. Old mates from the Cricketers' Arms days, pre-match pies. Timothy O'Kane. Thanks, Tim.
He's your mate, isn't he?
Yep. Demon Badger, 86. Demon Badger, 86. Umpires have a big say over the results of games, is diabolical and needs to be addressed by the league. But you're right about them being Peace Week. We contributed to the loss with inefficiency going forward, but the umpires were the deciding factor. It's happened the other way before. Collingwood have won games through bad umpiring calls. It needs to be fixed universally. It doesn't need to be fixed when we're winning, just the other way. Russell Blackwell, sorry for such a long post, guys. Back when the Pies were on the winning streak, McCrae told the media this is a different team that went 14-2 in 2023 to being in the rut. I want McCrae to go back where he comes from. He's a putrid guy, his height and build, can't present himself in big moments. Piss Hill off if he can't commit and contribute. He hasn't played a good game since the comeback game versus North. If we can't get within 3 points of the potential premiers Adelaide, then another 5% effort better conversion rate, better decision making would get us over the line. I'm worried we have thrown the house at trying to win a flag in 2025. if we fall short, we'll go backwards in 2026, and it could be a while for another flag, which I totally agree with, because there are holes that are going to open up, and they're important holes.
Yeah, but I think in this instance, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. I think this is our last serious tilt at a flag for a little while, and I don't probably begrudge them, and certainly halfway through the season, I didn't begrudge them throwing everything at winning it this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. The one concern, like I said, I would have exited a couple of players a little bit earlier.
Like Lipinski.
A couple of older players, just to get
Lipinski's
that
older.
But, the 30-plus guys. I think the one big issue this year has been the injuries they've gotten have been to really vital players. So they've had injuries to Schultz, to McCrae, to Schultz again, and then the Hill's gone out. So that's really affected their capacity to apply pressure in the forward 50. And then you get, injuries to Howe, and then Franton was out for a bit, and Dean came in, and he struggled at that level. So it's like the really problematic areas, and obviously the Goey's only come back recently. So, it wasn't sort of fringe players you could just replace. Nick Ianello, 3767, at the end of the Carlton game podcast, including the legendary third quarter upload to PH, Spook prophesied that we were due for a stinker coming into the Gold Coast game. I think we've had enough of the stinker now, Spook. Can you please state a new prophecy after the Melbourne game to set up for a finals campaign that will put the past 2 months behind us as the biggest form bluff in AFL history? So other people are starting to recognise your powers.
See, I grasped my balls this morning, the crystal ones I have at home, and I gazed longingly into my ball and thought, I can see into the future. There wasn't much future there for the ball. We'll win the flag.
Christopher Howie, Adelaide will feel a bit dudded if they secure a home first final, but have to play Collingwood. I think we're a bigger hoodoo team for them than Hawthorn are for us.
I reckon definitely I'd agree with that, but I think Adelaide will be quietly shitting themselves that they'll be playing us again.
Yep. Ashton Prison, a dirty day with the inside 50 dominance. We should have easily won. An unacceptable loss, really. We still get sliced up between the arcs too often. Forwards horribly out of form, and the mids pressure seems to have dropped off, and the defence gets caught out. And the bombing to a disadvantage for the forwards has to stop. Dropping the Freo and Gold Coast games are coming to bite us in the arse.
Do you know what the biggest fuck up this week was? That Rowan Steele. What sort of clown delivers the ball inside 50 and hits targets?
Well, obviously,
what sort of clown drops his eyes and kicks low and hard?
Well, obviously, you see why they like him.
Yeah, he'll be dropped this week for disciplinary reasons.
Digsby, thanks, Husky. And then after the loss, after the game, he said, bring back Wilbur.
He can't
Husky
now.
Elliott announced his retirement.
Yeah, I know. It was on all the paper.
Thanks for your contributions to Collingwood, Husky. Premiership player, so that not a lot of Collingwood players can say that. You look at like the great Nathan Buckley, he doesn't have a flag to his name.
No.
Past players, Len Thompson and those sort of guys, they don't have flags to their name, so it's a really special group that he's part of. Let me ask you, are
we saying something nice about him on the way out?
I just said something nice. Thank you for your service to Collingwood. Thanks for your service.
Thanks for your service.
What is this, a Kirby Enthusiasm episode?
Did you give him a shit bow?
No, I didn't. I'm going to go through a few things here. Isaac Ranken, 4 weeks from what should have been a 5-week penalty.
What do you reckon he got argued down?
Oh, look, I've said this before. I fucking hate, sorry, first bit of swearing today, that so many players fall back on the mental health defence the moment they mess up. It's not a get out of jail free card for people to behave poorly. Rankin has form. Jared Watley made a good point. He said, the AFL should have said to Adelaide, it's 5 weeks. Give us your case. Okay, it's still 5 weeks. Give us your appeal. Okay, thanks. It's still 5 weeks. The AFL just belly flopped in the weakest way possible, and they just labelled it, there's mental health reasons, that he will get sad if he doesn't get to play a final. That is so piss weak. I mean, I've said this for years. The AFL is a piss weak organisation. They prove it time and time and time again. And at a point where they should have stood up and showed something for what they, for a standard they were making, like when people say, oh, hey, you get more for a homophobic remark than you do for hitting someone or for threatening their life. It's like, okay, you've decided to make a tough stand. Totally respect that. And then you capitulate.
Yeah, I mean, you've had several precedents this year where the penalty has gotten progressively worse. Why did he get a reduction?
Well, the thing too is I looked at the last one. So the Jack Graham one for West Coast, they said he got the 4 weeks, and they said it would have been worse if he didn't take accountability and self-report.
Well, which Ranken didn't do either.
Yeah. So I mean, he took account. I mean, they're saying he took accountability because he rang and apologised. Great.
Well, he rang, and the voice message said, "Hello, this is Joni. I'm sorry that I'm not home."
It's a shocker. But it's the thing too. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just going to question it. I mean, is that a legitimate apology, or was that like going into PR?
Yeah, it's saving face apology.
Yeah, let's do this because you're going to go up, and we have to be able to present this as part of the case.
So you've argued successfully that you've had the reduction done because the toll on his mental health at missing a grand final potentially seemed to be the justification enough, and that swayed the AFL. Took them, 4 days? 4 days to do this?
Yeah.
This is the problem when you have lawyers involved in decision making, because they can't see things for as they are. They are open to arguing and negotiation, and I think that's clearly what's happened here. That they've presented. I mean, the thing is, it's clear fucking cut. He said it. There's no denying he said it.
And he's done it before.
And he's got form. And you had a load of precedents where you progressively made it a worse penalty. 5 weeks was nominated, and 5 weeks is what it should have been. And you've missed the grand final. Maybe you might fucking learn from this moving forward. But now you've given him like a slim hope. So if Adelaide, when we beat them next week, they can now potentially have him back for the grand final, which would be the Collingwood way. Because now we can beat them. We can then meet them again in the grand final, and then Ranken kicks the winning goal with 8 seconds to go.
Good smash him. I just get annoyed because, okay, you've set the precedent that any club can make this argument if you're going to suspend a player as an important game. Well, don't. His mental health will deteriorate, so please don't punish him as heavily as you should. If I was the AFL, so I'm probably the outlier here, but I actually look at it in situations like this. It's like, you know what, it's not 5 weeks. Give him fucking 10 weeks. And just say, this is it. This is the fucking stand we're taking. You do not do this on the football field. That's all there is. I don't give a fuck what your excuse is, because it is an excuse. And then the next player goes, well, holy shit, they added him for 10. I'll go for 15 if I say something. If you want them to take a stand, then you enforce it, and you enforce it in the strongest way possible. Mm-hmm. You didn't. You fucking capitulated because you're a weak organisation. And I wrote a piece on the Raw, which I said, like, any time they've come to a situation where they should take a stand. So you go to something like the Adam Goods booing, you go to the fucking Essendon supplement scandals. What do? They did nothing both times. They are a piss weak organisation. Where they'll get their wins is on things like suspending Jaden Stevenson for 10 weeks for a $20 bet or whatever it was. And they'll say, hey, look how powerful we are. Meanwhile, you're getting fucking advertising money from bloody Betfair. You're a ridiculous organisation, and it's one of the reasons I really struggle to watch the game, because it's just how poorly it's administered. And I'll run around. I mean, look, they're sending Greg Swan in there to clean it up, so that tells you something about how poorly this competition is run.
Yeah, the Dylan Kane combo has been probably a bit of a failure so far. It's been shit house.
It's if you want like a legitimate competition, the issues for me are always the inconsistency in how you apply things, and it really doesn't make sense to me. And we just watched the Hawthorn Brisbane game, and we were shouting at like how ridiculously inconsistent the umpiring was.
Just for a change.
Yeah, but it really makes it a hard watch. And I actually am, again, an outlier. I don't think it's that hard a game to umpire if you fix the rules in place. So the amount of times, holding the ball, if you don't dispose of it legally, it's just holding the ball 100% of the time. You cannot drop it, which players do. I mean, there was the ridiculous one fucking in the Collingwood Melbourne game. I can't remember who he tackled, the Brisbane guy. He did drop it. Play on, and then the guy who picks it up is tackled immediately and tackled to the ground, and that was holding the ball. It's like, fucking really? That's how you apply that rule? It's really, really poor. Anyway, sorry, I've gone off on a tangent.
Anyway, I mean, the thing is, what warms my heart is that amidst all this turmoil and pummeling of his mental health, that Ranken was still able to book flights to Italy and go overseas.
Well, it's a tough life. Tough life,
Because, any time that I'd be faced with a mental health crisis, the first thing I'd be doing is probably going overseas, wouldn't you?
Yeah. They say money can't buy your happiness, but it can buy you a trip to Italy. I can't do that. I can't just fucking pick up from work. I might do that one day. I might just murder someone and just go, look, don't send me to prison. I've got a wedding coming up. And I'll be really sad if I can't make it.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a reality check, I think.
I'm actually glad that the media jumped on this. So people like Jared Whiteley and Jason Dunstall go, we don't understand why it's worked out. And
Why did it take 4 days?
fucking...
It's just... Anyway.
And the way certain aspects of media, and by media, I'm talking about South Australian media, tried to vilify Collingwood, saying they rolled him up.
Who's that numbnut on 5AA or...
Stephen Ruck.
Far out. What a clown.
What a fucking...
I don't think he needs us to tell him that, though. I think he's pretty fucking aware himself.
The strategy was Collingwood knew what they were doing. They went out there to rile him up. Did they know that he was going to use a homophobic remark? Was that part of the Collingwood plan?
It was. We planned it out meticulously.
Why
if you look in the pre-match address, you can see it on the whiteboard.
So we tried to get him suspended because we knew we might face Adelaide in the finals. And a question, Steve. Why didn't we do this against Gold Coast, Brisbane and Hawthorn, who we may also face in the finals? Did we try and it didn't work?
You're suggesting Steve's capable of a rational thought, though.
But it's all this stuff like, he was upset because Dan Houston got stuck into him about knocking him out. And you said it, you go, well, how does that fucking flow into him then running off and abusing someone else? Why isn't he abusing Houston? Why isn't he telling Houston, you're a dick, mate? You're shit, whatever. Why did it spin off into something else? Again, it sort of comes back to you shouldn't have entertained, short of the Collingwood play in question, getting stuck into him in a way that was totally unacceptable, and then he's fired back. And even in that case, it should still be like, well, maybe we're just going to suspend both of you. There was no defence for saying, hey, he was getting sledged, because these players get sledged all the fucking time. So how is that a defence to say, well, he's getting sledged, and so that's why he went off? It's fucking piss weak. It really frustrates me how shit an organisation the AFL is. Speaking of shit AFL organisation, Nick Daicos. Have you ever seen a player, particularly a young player, who generates as much vitriol for being soft, for being a stager, for being not as good as people say he is, in social media and stuff like that?
I think there's two types of people on social media. There's trolls and fuckwits. And we seem to attract both kinds. The treatment of Nick, and then look, this is any champion player, is just bordering on the fucking absurd. And it's just born of jealousy, really, because they're not playing for you. Like, the thing is, like, I don't care who you play for. You know, I love watching Cripps play or Rao or anyone like that. Anyone who busts a nut and plays really fucking well and demonstrates skill and all that sort of stuff, they're just worth watching. That's why you watch neutral games. You watch the neutral games to see the fucking genuine stars of the competition run around. Nick's a genuine fucking star of the competition. He deserves a bit more respect than the crap that he cops. All of them do.
Yeah, 100% agree. I mean, I've said, I would love to see Carlton wallow in mediocrity for the next 90,000 years, but I still think fucking Cripps is an awesome player.
Yeah.
He's an absolute beast.
A gun is a gun.
And I can appreciate, where is Ralph, Ranken, I can say, geez, what a great player. The depreciation that people apply to Nick, and then, I've noticed in social media, these things are creeping in where he gets a free because his opponent has retaliated against him. So, take an example from Friday night with Langdon, where he tackled Langdon and tackled him into the ground and sort of had him in a headlock briefly. And then Langdon turned around and fucking, started pushing, and they were really getting into each other. And then Langdon was penalised for a free. And people go, well, see, Nick starts this and he gets a free. And it's do you really think he instigated any aggression, or do you think he might be retaliating for something that's happened earlier?
That was the one over the boundary line, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So the thing is, social media, before you go on, the fucking cries that he flops and all that sort of stuff, it seemed to be the mainstay. And then it came out there was another angle of that, where Langdon had fucking hold of his leg and pulled him, and he's gone backwards because of that. And you don't see any retraction of those comments, but because, there's the simple thing is there's no cure for stupid. And once you've conceded you've made a mistake, you might actually show a semblance of intelligence then, and we can't have that. But it's just fucked. People see what they want to see, and they whinge about what they want to whinge.
Yeah, I still don't get it, because I don't get why opposition supporters, I understand the envy that he's playing for Collingwood, and the Collingwood players do get to hated more. I mean, fucking Maynard's still getting booed for something 3 years ago that was fine, not fine, but in terms of it was a football act.
Well, he ended Brayshaw's career. Never mind the 48 other concussions he had that led
Well,
to
you
that
know,
moment.
as Turtle pointed out in that game, there's a bit of play in the pocket where Brayshaw got a hit, and you can see he's obviously dazed, and that's when they should have probably pulled in and said, we've got to do a check, particularly for a guy who has a concussion profile like Brayshaw has. And that's not trying to victim blame or anything, just sort of saying, you know, there were examinations that could have been conducted earlier. The Nick Daicos stuff, like, it just, the stuff that people pull out, it's like, you go back to the Collingwood St Kilda game where they actually had a camera on him behind play, and they're showing him getting hit, they're showing him getting kicked, they're showing him getting slapped in the back of the head, miles off play. He's dealing with this constantly. So if he's actually firing up against an opponent, like with the Langdon tackle, he put a bit of aggression into it. It's like, do you think it's just because he decides to be a dick at that very moment, or do you think it's something like he's just getting frustration out?
I mean, we've pointed that out several times. It's clear frustration. You know, I don't think he's a player that plays with, like, he's not a big bloke or anything like that. He's not going to go out there and, you know, deliberately hurt anyone or anything like that, or play with malice or anything. It's just, I'm poked and prodded and jabbed and knee dropped to the point where I've just had enough.
Well, you see, I mean, go back 2 years ago to 2023 when we played Sydney, and fucking Sydney sent pretty much the whole team to intimidate him. And pre-game, Longmire said something like, oh, you know, they go, you know, what's your plan for him? And he says something like, oh, we know we plan to hurt him. And then he sends pretty much the whole team to go get stuck in his face, and Collingwood players have to then go defend him. And that instigates a melee. And like, I thought Collingwood was weak in that instance, that they should have turned around to the AFL and just said, we're not paying that. Well, he sent the whole team to intimidate one of our players. What do you expect us to do? He purposely instigated the melee. It wasn't something that organically blew up. Longmire purposely instructed for that to occur, which is naturally going to draw the Collingwood players in defence of their teammate. So, but you're seeing stuff like that, and it's like, well, do you really think he's like a dick, like a Tom Papley in terms of the way he plays? I mean, you know, Papley's a great player, but he's an abrasive player in that way, like, you know, like Toby Green. So you look at interviews with Nick, you know, post-game, pre-game, anything like that. He's the fucking sweetest, nicest, sickeningly nice guy. Did you see that thing with Tex Walker's son?
Yeah, that was good.
And it was like, you know, he was just the nicest guy. And like, I saw people in comments going, oh, that's just, you know, I don't like him as a player, but that's fantastic. And it's like, that's who he is. But
He's like Simon the Likeable.
He pretty much, no, not to all opposition supporters. I really get tired of that sort of shit. If you look at like the football media, they rate him as a player, and a lot of those people in the football media are ex-players. Remember after the 2023 grand final, Gerard Healy wrote this really cool profile piece on Nick, and he addressed things like people saying Nick's soft, and he's going, but you look at like, I can't remember the exact stats, but it was like he had 16 contested possessions in the grand final, which was the most, so that dispels that theory he's soft. You know, like, the football media who've played football rate him really highly as a player, but the fucking normal dicks who just occupy social media and like the troll and clickbait and really have no fucking idea, they just shit on him. And the thing too is, I actually looked at the free kicks. In terms of the mids, he's like 7th or 8th behind the mids who get more free kicks, because people say he gets taken care of by the umpires. Well, he's not getting taken care of more than Patrick Cripps was in front of him. Matt Rowell was in front of him. You know, hard to complain about the treatment of Matt Rowell, but Rowell's actually in front of him in the free kicks. So, you know, there was other guys there. It's like, well, he's getting taken care of, but not as well as some of the other. And I'm not banging Patrick Cripps, but look at what Patrick Cripps got in the Brownlow last year, where he got like his 46 votes. He's a deserved Brownlow winner, but like, he got an insane amount of votes, which I would have thought, that's just really, I don't want to say prejudice, but it's almost like, and same thing happened with Nick. I didn't think he should have got, what did he get, 37? I don't think he had his 37 vote. Yeah, it just sort of shows that unwitting bias that umpires sometimes apply.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
In voting, that is.
Yeah. No, they're all good points. I mean, but the thing is, just don't let the facts get in the way of a good story when it comes to trolling.
Bloody hell.
How much time we got?
I pretty much think they can't win. Collingwood can't win the flag without him.
No, I tend to agree. I mean, we need that X factor, and at the moment,
and that pace and that
yeah,
pressure.
yeah, and whatever the issue is, from what I understand, he wants to play. I think you've got to back him in and play.
Right, so look,
Yeah, I talked a little bit about it today. There was so Murphy's obviously having trouble with Zurich Insurance, who don't want to pay out on the concussion stuff.
because they turned him into Robocop.
And I don't know whether you saw the letter that was
No.
published today, but he's pretty much said, you're a pack of arseholes. The amount of shit that he has to go through, that he's constantly questioned about whether this has fucked him up. He said, look, life for him at the moment is pretty much rock bottom. The only solace he has, he does 2 unpaid days of work at the club where he feels normal again, and then, he's embraced by the teammates and all that sort of things. But away from that, he's clearly fucked. The thing is, I think with Hill is this has gone on for such a long time now and he seems to be craving the being back around the teammates and that bonding, mateship that you get out of sporting clubs, and it's obviously better for him to be there. I think the best way to deal with some of this stuff sometimes is just to get as much normality back into
Totally.
to your life as you can, routine and structure and all that sort of stuff. And that clearly means, I think, look, if he's screaming to wanting to play, and we don't know what the whole story is with this too, we're assuming what we're hearing is true. If he wants to play, it's at that point now where I think the best place for him is going to be out there and playing. And then that's also selfishly for the side as well. I think it's a win-win situation.
Okay, so look, the profile list, like if examine it forensically, he went out for personal issues, and we know he's had a separation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so totally sympathize with that. I think he had about 4 weeks off, and then they've brought him back. They've played him in the VFL, and then after the VFL, they've played him as a sub for 1 quarter, and he took that. Wasn't a great mark, but he took that sort of mark on. I can't remember the guy, but over the back, and he kicked the goal. And you look at him and go, okay, it looks like he's there enough to play. The following week he has gastro, which I have no doubt wasn't gastro.
Mm.
And then the few weeks afterward, it's like, well, he's totally back off the radar. So what actually has happened there in terms of them deciding we tried to bring him back, it hasn't worked for whatever reasons they've adjudicated, now let's not play him. Now, one of the things I'll say is fitness, which I find the most farcical thing ever, because he wasn't out with an injury, so he wasn't losing fitness in that way, but you'd have like going back to how he's not going to be able to do a lot of any running and shit like that. And he, they keep sort of going back that he's not, the fitness isn't right. But then you look at comparisons like Jordy De Goey missed just as much football. They played him briefly in the VFL, and then they just brought him straight up, and they played him in a game where they subbed him off, and now they're just playing him fully. So the fitness thing doesn't ring true. So it's really interesting about why is he not in there? And there's obviously scurrilous rumours that, allege one thing or another. But as you said, I mean, if he wants to play, and we don't know that for certain, but that's what's going around being said, then wouldn't you just go, well, that's it, we have to roll the dice, and for the benefit of both of us, not just for the team. Because I remember when you kicked that goal, was it the Hawthorn game he came back in? Or the Brisbane one? But when you kicked that goal, everyone got around him, and that must have felt like, oh, cool, this is a place of belong. This is in my life where a lot of cornerstones are disintegrating under me. This is one thing I still have that gives me a sense of belonging. And again, I'm profiling. I don't know if that's the case. He may be totally just going, my head's not in it for football anymore.
But like Fly said in that, I think it was the presser last week, that he had dinner with him, and Hill asked him, what are my chances? He goes, well, what do you want me to say? He goes, I want you to say that there's some hope. He clearly wants to play, but they just don't feel that he's right enough to play, and that's clearly not fitness right. I think they'll use that as a justification, but I don't think match conditioning is for him, because he's not coming back from an injury or anything. Wouldn't be that difficult to get some run back into his legs and all that sort of thing. It wouldn't take that much, especially now that you've got a block of 2 weeks, that you could really put a lot of hard training into him and get him right for that first final.
I mean, go back to the goalie. I mean, the reason he obviously could do what he's done is because he has years of pre-seasons behind him in games. I mean, and Bobby Hill doesn't have as long a career as Geordie the Goalie's had, but Bobby Hill has had, I'm not sure what season this is, but, he's been around for a while. So he's got a base there that he's established. And obviously, when you're an athlete and you have that base, you are going to lose conditioning when you're out, but it's a lot easier to ramp it back up because there's something there that's been built over multiple seasons. So I don't know. I find it a really weird one. And
it's clearly difficult because, like I said last week, I don't see how you can sustain this going forward. But you don't have to worry about that now. You've got the next few weeks to maybe help him and help ourselves at the same time.
Yeah.
Again, from a purely selfish perspective.
I mean, we're looking at it from the sort of stuff we're hearing. Now, we could be totally wrong, and it could be just, he just doesn't, whatever he's saying is not congruent with the way he actually feels, and that's what they're reading. But, they're looking at him and going, you think you're ready, but you're totally so far off where we need you to be. So, we're not speaking from that point in terms of just what we're hearing. They're taking it at face value. If he wants to play, he's ready to play, he can play. So it's really interesting what their plan moving forward would be. But in terms of I don't think we're going to win the flag without him.
No.
We've been saying it for weeks. I think that the side that Fly picks, or the side that he feels works on paper, doesn't actually work on the field. And when you stick Bobby in there, you look at the Melbourne game. Whenever McCrae got near the ball, something happened because he had pace to sort of break lines and to make something happen. We're a very, very one-pace side for the most part. Even guys like Houston, Lipinski, they're not necessarily fast. And Lipinski's got a little bit of dash, but that helps when you stand 10 metres outside packs. But they're not necessarily fast. Quayner's quick-ish, but you don't really have a lot of blistering pace, and that comes from the guys like Hill and McCrae, to a lesser extent. Schultz is, again, quick-ish, but we're such a one-pace side that a lot of times you look at situations and you think, we don't have the pace or the pressure to close that down, and that's because you got older guys and more, moderately speeded guys who just can't chase. So what do you think about this? So we're going to play Adelaide over there again?
Yeah, which, as I said earlier, I think there'd be, I think Adelaide would be more fearful of that than what we are or will be. And probably the one hopeful saving grace out of that shit umpiring performance is they won't repeat it because it cops so much flack. It actually may work for us.
Well, funnily, whenever I saw when I see a performance like that, I think, okay, next week will be better. And that Melbourne game was fucking diabolical too.
But that's the thing. It's not so much A games; it's every game.
Yeah.
We were watching that one tonight. It was just like, how many times did you just fucking throw your hands up at the stuff that they miss or the bewildering things that are being paid? It's just fucked.
Well, there was that play we point out with Brisbane, free holding the ball. They should have been paid in the space of about 7 seconds. And they were all textbook ones, and the umpire just ignored it. And then meanwhile, there was that one that Buckley didn't like, which we said, with the front on contact. We've talked about rules before where you're basically taking options away from the defender or the defending player, where you're saying, you know what, if you go up for it, we just have to penalise you, which means you can't go up for it. Which means you just have to stand there and let your opponent get it. The rules are in such a horrible state. I understand that they've been muddied by the fact that they're very concussion paranoid, but I think they just need to actually accept, sometimes contact happens. We don't like it, but sometimes when you get, two guys who are 90 kilos running at full pace and they are going to collide, something might actually happen. That's like the Howe one. Like the Howe one, I don't think Newcomb intended to headbutt him, but I think Newcomb said, I'm just going to run him as hard as I can and there'll be a collision. And, then you do get the repercussions of that.
No, totally agree.
So what sort of chance do you rate us against Adelaide?
If we bring what we brought last week...
They struggled against the might of North Melbourne.
Yeah, I wonder how much the Ranken stuff rattled them though, and they
I
knew
was
that they had to do just a bare
I
bit
was
of
being
them.
sarcastic. They really just did the minimum to get past that.
Yeah, but I do actually wonder about how much the week rattled them. It probably threw them a little bit off kilter. Thilthorpe, from what I didn't watch the game, but apparently he was on fire, so he's going to be important to stop no matter what. I think that's the key. Their midfield still is struggling. I did see something about Laird. There's
Yeah,
belief that he might be cited for a bump that was miles off the ball.
yeah.
That'll be an interesting one. That'll be one to watch.
I was famous last was I don't actually think their midfield's that good outside of Rankin and Dawson. I mean,
And
it's
they've lost. Rankin's going to
yeah.
be a big loss for them.
So it's workmanlike. I think it's a lot like ours too. I think their ruckman's pretty handy, but in like their forward setup's really scary, and their defence is really good.
If we take the triple M's in, I'm just probably going to weave. I'm
should
going to
weave
weave.
too.
I'm going to weave something. I think there's going to be a call has to be made on that, and I'm tipping. I'm waiting to hear something come out on Monday about Medicek's wrist or something.
Given how's out, I really would like if they just say fuck it. McStay's got to go back, and that speeds up the forward 50 a little bit.
Well, he can go back and mistake Thilthorpe's head for a football.
Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, I don't.
Offensive spoils.
And we were talking about this a little bit earlier. Say like the side that the Collingwood who was playing pre-King's birthday versus the one that's played post-King's birthday is just like two different sides. And the pre-King's birthday was like, you know what? That's actually probably I'd have confidence in that to beat pretty much anyone.
Yep, totally.
But the one since then has really, really struggled.
And that's the thing. I just don't know going into this game which Collingwood's going to go into this game. I don't know what we look like at the moment. Look, and finals is always a different beast. It's a lot more frenetic. I think if we play the chaos football like we did in that first quarter against Adelaide, I think if you have a good start like that, then you stand a good chance of winning these.
Well, you go to that. I mean, to go to press conference, Fly was talking about like we're playing boring, we're just kicking down the line. I mean, if only you were like the coach of the team and you could change that. I don't understand how that becomes the habit. The
We're foxing. Yeah, we're foxing.
But I don't. I think the way they're playing at the moment, while it's actually, it's not even giving you close games. You know, you're close against Adelaide. You beat Melbourne, who's finished, 13th or something. So, hey, good one-goal win. And then prior to that, you're getting smashed. So I don't think it's really going to work if that's what they try and revert to. Now, however the engine's broken down, it's broken down. And they've got to find ways to kickstart it. I think we've talked about this, a big part of when we were playing well, it was when you did have the Hill, McCreary, Schultz, and Elliott forward set up, which was really fast and unpredictable and applied pressure. And then you had McStay out at that point with an injury. So I really wish you'd look at it, or the whole coaching staff would look and go, well, what was working there, and then how was it slowed down here? I think it's going to sound really silly. I think that West Coast game we played was a massive mistake when they brought West in, and they basically said, well, let's play all four tools and see how that looks. And I think they just started messing with things a little bit too much, and that's part of why things have fallen apart, where if you look at the McCrae sides from 2022, the ones that have been competitive, they aren't actually that tall up forward. They've got the couple talls. They've had Cox and Mychick in 22. I mean, 23, McStay was there for parts of it, and he was out injured. But they're generally sort of relying on pace, because if you play that chaos ball and there's not a mark, it comes to ground, and then you've got those smalls applying pressure and just attacking. And like guys like Hill, who can create a goal out of half chances, they're just invaluable. And I don't really think we have a lot of that X factor in the forward line.
No, I think we've seen enough games now this year to see that the bombing to those three tools isn't translating into contested marks.
Yeah.
I don't think surely we're not going to take that into the finals. Now, it's going to have to be a hard call, but hard calls have to be made that we can't carry him. Unless McStay does go up and covers for Howe to stay on the side, I don't think we can afford to have the three up there.
I actually think McStay also, I don't know, confidence doesn't seem great at the moment. I think he's one who'd benefit from actually being led to the ball and having to sort of play a defensive role where it's not imperative that he's marking, that he can punch and he can, attack the ball physically or attack the contest physically, because he's just not that. I don't think he's ever been that effective a forward anyway. He's been your third stringer, that's great, but I think when they got him at Collingwood, they were sort of hoping he would maybe take another step, and that hasn't happened regardless.
No, it's pretty much just a continuation of the Brisbane form.
And again, I'm not bagging McCrae, but I mean, once McCrae left, Brisbane's full line started working better with two talls. So, and that's not bagging McCrae, it's just to say the free tall forward line, they have to be relatively exceptional talls. Maybe you look at Carlton. Carlton struggle when both Curnow and McCrae are in there. Curnow's injured at the moment. McCrae kicked 7
or
goals.
Something.
So
yeah.
It's.
Well, either you even look at Elliott's performance on against the D's. He had a lot more space to run into. It was a lot more effective.
Yeah, so I don't know. So what's your tip?
We'll win by 62 points.
I like that tip. I really don't know. I want to be confident, but the body of form...
You want to be confident. We all want to be confident.
We all want to be, but the body of form over the second half of the year is really concerning. And there's metrics that they're probably looking at like positive, but things like that, they talk a lot about that forward connectivity, and it's like, I don't think you're going to fix that with the setup you have.
The thing that'll work for us is Adelaide doesn't have a lot of finals experience running around out there. Apart from Taylor Walker, who else has played in the final?
No idea.
Yeah,
maybe Jordan Dawson. I don't know.
And for all the way the media wanks about that Adelaide winning the flag was a fait accompli, they're an untested side in finals. And you can get found out really quickly if you're not up to it. And look, they got some losses with Ranken and hopefully Laird rubbed out for a week. I'll take anything at this stage. But I don't think it's going to be as simple as they probably think it might be just by turning up and playing well. I think we've got a lot of finals experience. Hopefully we employ something a little bit different tactically wise to unsettle them, and I hope we just go out there and beat the living crap out of them.
Yeah, totally agree, but I do think if McCrae just sort of lines up the 23 that he's effectively had the last 6 weeks, and he lines them up the same way, and he's playing guys like Rowan Steele as a sub or whoever, it's like, geez, I'm not confident. I just think that, he needs to go into it and just really be honest and make some hard calls. And I don't know if he's got that in him. If you go back to 2010 when we won the flag, Malthouse, you look at that replay, he dropped Leon Davis. He says he regrets it, but at that time you're thinking, well, okay, I understand why he's made that decision.
Well, Leon's grand final performances weren't great.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I understand why he made that. I mean, I think if you play in that replay, I always said he would kick 4 or 5 goals because we're just so dominant. But then things like Presty...
But you don't know that at the time.
Yeah. Presty, I know Presty volunteered and said, look, I'm not up to it, but still, that's a hard call to make. And you look at 211 when he messed that up. No, not Presty, but Malthouse, where he said, I'll go with Reed. I'll go. I mean, he had like he went for an injured Jolly also. You go back to 1990, Matthews made the call, what was it, 1 week into the finals that, look, the forward line's too slow with Brian Taylor, so he's out. So this guy's been a mainstay of your forward line when he's fit for the last 4 years, and Matthews just gone, no, it's not going to work. And then he's had to drop Ronnie McEwen and just said in the second semi, it's like, we don't have a matchup for you. It's not going to work. And I think if you look at a lot of flag sides, they make those really hard calls. I mean, even 2022, I don't know, the Taylor Adams one, because there's rumours that he wasn't injured. But you have to make those because the reality is every flag side does have hard luck stories. And if you want to be a flag side, sometimes you just got to be really, really tough.
It's the same with Noble and that too. At least in that instance, Fly made the right call. So he's at least he's got one precedent that says he can do it.
Yeah, I mean Look, the thing is, I think in 23 he had some alternatives to go to, and I think now he actually doesn't have those alternatives. It's more a case of he's going to have to think laterally, like throwing McCrae down back, which McCrae hasn't done in the 3 years he's been at Collingwood, or even doing something like throwing Parker up forward as the defensive forward, which Lockie Sullivan was doing. So even something like that. Again, we do that. I don't think he would. I think he defaults to what he knows. Which is a really ironic thing because you think when they got him, they were really thinking, well, you've had a lot of developmental experience, but he hasn't really relied on that with his coaching.
Well, maybe this time around his hands forced, so we'll find out.
All right. Final thoughts?
Smash him.
Yeah, I like that. Collingwood by 13 points.
We're home.
We're home. Oh, you sniffed it.
I've shaved the post.
Yep, that's a 13-point win. Anyway, like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. Leave comments, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Later.
Don't you go changing. Yeah.
What's that?
To get a jail. Fuck! All right. Take 2. Beep.